You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
My man, John Gray.
Pastor
What up,
John
man?
Gray.
You come highly recommended from a lot of people that I truly love. You know, Debbie Dev,
Yeah,
Carl
man,
Lentz.
that's my sister.
You're a spiritual advisor?
Yeah, I'm a pastor at a church called Lakewood
Okay.
in Houston, Texas. You ever heard of a guy named Joel Osteen?
Of course.
I'm the associate pastor at that church. So when he's out of town, I normally do those weekends, and then I'm in charge of our midweek service. So when I first got there, it's about 2,500. Now it's about 9,000 every week, and everybody comes. It's not just like one part of the spectrum. It's everybody. It's black, it's white, it's Hispanic, it's Nigerian, it's gay, it's straight, it's transgender, it's pimps. It's drug dealers.
Oh, right. You got pimps, drug dealers,
absolutely.
rappers, everybody.
Yeah, Slim Thug comes,
Dr.
Jazz
Thugger
Prince
Thugger.
comes.
Now, I must say that if you have pimps and drug dealers coming to your church week after week, you're not doing your job because you're not getting them to change. Okay. Now, there's new pimps and drug dealers every week. Okay, I get
right.
it. But the
It's
same
a
old
fresh
pimps and
crop
drug
each
dealers,
week.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't see you last week, but for me, the thing is, my job is not necessarily to see the salvation. My job is to seed the salvation. The problem with the church, I think, a lot of times is they expect people to change overnight when the people who are saying it didn't change overnight.
Right.
You know, the whole idea of faith and spirituality, for me, is not just a black and white issue because everybody's journey is different.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like learning how to engage culture and how to have conversation with people. It's not so much dogmatic. The problem with the church, to me, is that they're always pointing the finger at somebody.
Very judgmental.
But if you look at the life of Jesus, every time he engaged somebody that didn't believe what he believed, he was conversational. Peep the woman at the well. Samaritan. Jews and Samaritans couldn't stand each other, didn't like each other. And instead of talking down to her, knowing she had been married 5 times, it didn't work out, she was living with a dude, he didn't go up to her, hey, nasty, give me some water. He was like, hey, let me get some water. She's like, first of all, you don't know me because I'm from Samaria, represent, back up. If you knew who I was, why are you even talking to me? And then all of a sudden he was like, if you knew who I was, you'd ask me for some water and you never thirst again, girl. So then he got her attention. You see what I'm saying?
When you said that, the first thing I thought about was Jesus could have got a lot of vagina if he was a manipulator.
For real, that's true though.
Yeah.
That's what speaks to his integrity.
Right.
Because Jesus could have knocked him down.
Yes.
But he
Jesus could have knocked him down.
But he kept his integrity. He told the woman, he's like, why don't you go get your husband? She was like, I'm not married. He was like, you're right. Matter of fact, you've been married 5 times. And the man you're living with now is not your husband. And then all of a sudden she realized she was in the presence of something supernatural.
Right.
But he didn't judge her. He loved her. And he was the 7th man in her life. 7 is the number of completion. Where she was empty before, she was completed with him. So she went from a broken woman in a broken relationship to an evangelist in one conversation. But the church wants to judge people when Jesus, all he was serving. Instead of doing this, the church needs to have their hands out like this.
Absolutely.
Now, don't you think that's part of the problem? People can't have a conversation nowadays.
No, absolutely. That's the show that I'm on now. It's called The Preachers. It's on Fox. And we got so much heat. Monique, Academy Award winner, came on with her husband, Sidney, with his cowboy boots on. And he had on some
cowboy
tiny
boots.
jeans. And
Called Slim Jeans.
Right,
man.
yeah.
They were
dog.
talking about their open marriage.
Yeah, yeah, Angela. And, of course, the church folk, they complained. They were very offended. I was told I was going to hell. Not because I believed it, because I don't, but because I had the conversation.
So you let them have the platform to discuss something, and just letting somebody have a platform and speak doesn't mean that you advocate what it is that they're doing.
Right.
But people had an issue with you even giving them that platform.
Yeah, and it's just the whole idea. Why would you have secular people? Secular is a word church people use for stuff they don't understand.
That's true.
The reality is everybody doesn't believe what I believe. But if I can't have the dialogue, if I can't see the value and the humanity in somebody else's opinion, then something's wrong with me. Because that's not the Jesus that I read about.
Right.
People are really cool with God. 89% of the United States, according to the latest Pew Research poll, believes in God, but they don't believe in religion.
That's me all day.
The greatest factor in people seeing the real Jesus is people. The greatest deterrent in people seeing the real Jesus is people. Because people who say they're believers but don't live it. So I had this conversation, Angela, with Monique, and it's been seen over 9 million times now, right? my response was at the end of the program. I have this thing called 90 Seconds of Hope, where I talked about the fact that I do want to have an open marriage, but not the same way that she wants one, where they can just have multiple partners. My thing is my wife is going to continue to develop and evolve over time. So I'm literally getting a new woman every year, every 6 months, or every time she develops. I got a new woman from the one I married 5.5 years ago. So I said my marriage is open to every version of my wife, but it's closed to anybody else. But that didn't go
sounds like
viral.
you're taking it to Dr. Miami every year.
Say again?
It kind of sounds like you're taking it to Dr. Miami every year. Get some new
He's a
breasts.
plastic surgery. Yeah.
Nah, she's cold. She got 7 tattoos, Bray. She cold.
Okay.
But some
3
people
degrees
didn't-
in the medical field. I'm straight.
Some people didn't make it to the end of the show. Some people only saw the viral video.
Right.
So they didn't know what your take on it was.
Yeah, and the truth is, I don't think they cared. They just wanted a reason to bash it. You know, why are 4 preachers talking to worldly people? But you worldly. You know, people who say that, you nasty too.
how does a
You still
preacher-
struggling too. Why are you fronting? Like everything in your life is perfect. You cuss.
Now, what's your,
But
what's
listen,
your
how does a
stance?
preacher turn a secular person or a sinner straight if they don't have a conversation? Like, what do they expect? Yeah, I don't get it.
That's the point, you know. And if you ask them that, they're not going to say anything because there's no response to that. And my job is to just have the conversation. It's never a preacher's job to get anybody saved. That's the misnomer. My job is to share my faith when you ask me. The problem is the church goes up to people telling them they going to hell, but they didn't invite you in. Jesus didn't go to people that he wasn't invited. If you notice, he was in the synagogue. He was already invited there. You know, you can't, the problem is the church keeps answering questions nobody's asking. I can't just walk up to you and I ain't met you talking about, hey, your tattoos are that dishonors God. How do you even know he believes in the same God you believe in? We ain't even talking about the Old Testament. We ain't under the law. We under grace, you know? And the whole idea, to me, it's an honor to be on here because, you know, I grew up with real hip hop. What I mean by that is my first record I ever bought was Twilight 22, Electric Kingdom, 1983. The second record I bought
Never
was
heard
The
of
Whiners. Electric Kingdom, come to electric. Come on, deep in the city.
that's out of my
People
time,
live
bro.
in the
That's before
streets.
my time, bro.
You telling me you don't know
I don't
No.
know that song.
Africa
And I-
Bambaataa, Planet Rock? They all came out at the same time.
African Bambaataa needs prayer right now.
Really? Oh, that's a whole nother. That's after the.
Oh, no,
We do
interview.
know
I'm
Planet
gonna Google
Rock.
it for you. I'm gonna Google
Oh, you
it.
haven't heard? He allegedly sexually assaulted a
molesting
couple
little
of young
boys.
boys.
A few.
Oh my
Allegedly.
gosh.
Now, what's
That's
your
a
stance
problem.
on forgiveness?
I think
'Cause
forgiveness.
It's hard to forgive certain things, man.
But let's
Yeah.
hear his stance because we always disagree about this up here.
The whole idea of forgiveness.
I think it's overrated.
I believe in forgiveness, and Charlamagne and Envy think that it's overrated.
Yeah. Well, I think
Easier said than done.
I think this forgiveness to me is the key to everything, just from a spiritual standpoint, because it allows me to let go of the things that hurt me. Because the reality is I can't be fueled based on hate, based on unforgiveness. You know, there are a lot of people who said I'd never be anything. I don't have all the advanced degrees. I graduated from Withrow High School in Cincinnati in 91. Came from a single parent household. I saw my father 4 times in my life. The last time was on East 23rd and 1st Street in Manhattan at the Veterans Hospital on December 7th. He died right after I saw him. I told him, I forgive you for not being there. I forgive you for leaving me and Mom, for sleeping around the city, for being drugged out on heroin and not raising me, promising me you were going to come to all my games and didn't, even though I wasn't no athlete.
I'm glad. No, I'm glad you said you played football.
I played soccer.
Big ass.
You ain't played no soccer.
pastor. I was thinking that. I'm like, but this is what I want to run behind, so you can block the devil.
Yo,
this guy is
exactly. But it was like, if I'd held that bitterness and unforgiveness, one day later, I would have lived the rest of my life in regret that I had not freed myself and also freed my father. I believe he was holding on in that coma in New York so I could tell him I love him and I forgive him.
See,
what
I
makes
think
sense.
I agree. I understand what you're saying, but I think a lot of times we take too much personal responsibility for other people's f ups. Like
Right.
he did all of that stuff.
But he had to
Right.
let
He
go.
should be the one praying for forgiveness. He should be the one coming to you,
It makes
asking
sense.
for forgiveness.
It makes sense, but the biblical model, Jesus says, when you are offended, you go to them. And I was like, Jesus, this is stupid.
I agree.
I don't like that. But I reserve my right to lay down my will because God knows better than me. So I had to practice it. It doesn't mean it's easy, Angela.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things
I
that it's
agree.
hard to forgive.
It's hard.
We sitting in a time right now, men like us, we don't get the benefit of the doubt at a traffic stop.
Yeah.
It's hard to forgive cops. I got profiled in my nice neighborhood in Houston, in my driveway, in my black new truck. And he walks up to me, hand to the side. You know, your lights are on. Well, I'm in my driveway, in my car. If my wife hadn't walked out, he could have, he could have did anything. And he asked her, ma'am, are you okay? She said, sir, that's my husband.
You married to a white woman?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. She acts like it sometimes.
But brother,
no.
I forgive you then.
You forgive me?
I forgive you because, they said that you're Kevin Durant's spiritual advisor and he was going to come to the New York Knicks, but you advised him otherwise. So I forgive you for not giving him.
You need to talk to Carl.
Carl Lentz,
man.
Yeah.
But now, KD is that's
to pass the buck to
right.
somebody else.
Yeah, that's Carl. Carl with
yeah.
them tiny jeans and them little shirts and little six pack. I'm sick of him. But KD, I've been a big brother to him. I didn't know where he was going. I did share my thoughts as far as his process. I never said where because I think that's manipulating. People manipulate people who are in power to try to get what they want.
Were you talking about where the weather's better at in certain places?
No, I didn't tell him none of that. I just said,
The weather's nice in Houston. Kat.
right. He ain't coming to Houston, man. We got one player right now. That's James. But, I just felt like, he's got to make a decision that's best for him. Go enjoy your life, man. You've been living for everybody else. Go live for yourself.
Does God ever give you a feeling or like does God tell you something like God is telling me a message I got to tell Charlamagne? Does that happen?
It does. It does. Actually, and my sister Vanessa's over here. She works for Warner Brothers, and the show that we're doing on Fox is called The Preachers.
Right.
And we were out the last couple of days in Washington, D.C. and here in New York. And, a couple times we engaged people. I never met them. And I just started talking about specific things in their life. And she was like, yo, how did you do that? I was like, that's my gift. I'm able to see things about people. Like, and this might sound weird. I feel more comfortable in here than I have in some churches because at least in here, y'all are real. I don't like plastic. You know what I'm saying? And just to be able to have conversation and dialogue because faith and spirituality are not mutually exclusive from a hip hop culture and the millennials. This show we got is on Fox. It's called The Preachers. It's 4 preachers.
3 plugs. I like
Right.
how you do. I like how you put it in there.
Sean.
The way you do it is dope.
I'm trying.
You like DJ Khaled. You
He
just
knows
keep.
what he's doing.
We're trying to make
Yeah,
sure
but I
this-
don't take my shirt off. We built the same, but you're not gonna see my breasts. You know what I'm
We're trying to
saying?
take this from a test run to a permanent.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it was permanent. It's a test run.
it's a test run. It's a 3-week test run.
That
So,
seems like it's been on for a minute.
well, good. That feels good. Hopefully,
How do you feel about the other preacher shows that are on TV? I mean, I think I watched one of them.
The other pastor, he was up here. That's how I
Look
feel.
like that. Why? What do you feel about it? See, that
Like the
those shows make me
Like the preachers of
not want to go
Atlanta.
to church.
Yeah, like the commercialization of gospel is what I like to
Absolutely.
call it. Like
Makes
a
me
lot of
not wanna go
pastors
to
doing
church.
TV now.
yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. I haven't watched a lot of the episodes. I know some of the people like on the Preachers of Atlanta. I know Canton Jones. I love Canton because Canton loves his wife. I know Canton's living what he talks about. I don't have personal relationship with everybody else, but I know him. He's been in the streets for years, serving people that you'll never see on TV. He serves the homeless people. He serves the poor and the underprivileged. To me, that's where Jesus would be. Now, again, I don't have any personal things to say about anybody else. I just know him. But I think that the things that I hear from people is just that very same thing, the whole commercialization. But, people could say that about the preachers. I'm like, if you knew what the check was, you would know it's not, this is not for money.
Right.
And it's literally about sharing a spiritual perspective. The View has its own perspective. You guys have a different perspective. Everybody in this whole media space has a perspective. And I feel like faith and spirituality is just as valid a perspective. The problem is too many dudes are so thirsty for the platform that they'll compromise their beliefs. I can promise you, I'm grateful to be on that show, but the moment they tell me I can't talk about Jesus, I'm gone. I wasn't looking for that show.
How can you not talk about Jesus on a show called The Preachers on Fox?
Well, you'd be surprised, that, not on this show because our producer's like, yo, be you. But just in case they want to become sensationalized and they want me to kind of mute my voice, I won't be there.
You know what bothered me too? There was I think Charlamagne gave him donkey today. There was a pastor that was started a GoFundMe to get a private jet.
That's Creflo Dollar.
Yeah, man. Well,
How do you feel about that? Because it made me feel odd.
A lot of people that go to his church actually defended him, saying that he needed that because he needed to get to where he needs to get to help people in different.
yeah, and I'm going to say Delta is like 10 minutes away from the church. Just go through TSA pre-check like the rest of us. First of all, I'll say that, I love him. I love, all the folk that are fighting to build the kingdom. I think there's a lot of things that somebody can maybe do with $65 million that can help other people. I'm not saying he don't need, if you want to get a plane, great, but, maybe asking, poor people who sometimes got to ride the bus to get to church for money to get on a plane that they won't ever be able to ride on is maybe short-sighted.
I like you, John Gray. You a real I like you.
Thank
brother.
you. Yo, I'm a real. Yes, I made it, Ma. All right.
Now, there's 4 preachers on the show. Does ego ever come into play in this scenario? Like, who's the Beyonce of the 4
Jamal
preachers?
Bryant.
Jamal's the
Jamal
Beyonce.
Bryant.
Yo, that sounds bad because that's like saying Beyonce has an ego. I don't know if she does, but if you the diva, Jamal, because he wears the high collar shirts, shiny suits. He like Mace. He still rocks shiny suits. But no, I mean we all cool, and I think because and they'll tell you because I'm on there. I'm like, just now we had a interview on Good Day New York or whatever, and I was like, we ain't going out there without praying. Kevin Bacon was out there and all these other people. And I was like, we ain't Hollywood. Don't forget what got us here. We are not stars. We servants. Let's go out. Let's get right in this room. Let's go pray. Don't forget. This is who we were. When nobody knew us, I was serving Jesus. I worked at a homeless shelter in Cincinnati, Ohio, preaching to homeless men in the middle of summer. You can't imagine what it smelled like in that room. Listen to me. Smell a homeless man's feet that's been sitting outside for 18 hours. Yeah. But I would preach to those men. And some of those dudes get say they bring needles, crack pipes, weed to the altar. Guys, HIV positive, didn't have medicine. God doing all kind of miracles in their life. And it was from there that I started singing with this dude named Kirk Franklin back in 95. But I promise you, right now, if God called me to go work at that homeless shelter, I would do it. I don't care about platforms. The platform can't make you. It can only expose you. That's the thing. Too many people hungry for fame. But that's not what it's about, especially on our side. If you're going to serve people, then serve people. If the lights come, let them come. But I ain't changing for no camera. This is who I am.
Let's talk about service. What should the black churches be doing for like the Black Lives Matter movement?
All right. Well, Jamal is big on the Black Lives Matter side. And then I go to the most diverse church in the country. So we have 2 ends of the spectrum. I'm going to say it like this. The great tragedy of the evangelical church is their silence on the disproportionate amount of poor, underprivileged black men who are unarmed, who are killed by police officers. They don't want to talk about it because their perspective of Jesus is not one of activism, even though there are so many references to social justice in the Bible. You can't pick and choose what you want to be about. You know what I'm saying? So my problem with the church is their silence is not racial. It should be about justice. And if it was underprivileged white men or white women that were getting disproportionately killed by cops, then we need to also be on the front lines of that. But because we have a racial issue in this country dating back to 1619 that has never healed properly, and now you see it festering in our political cycle with, you know, the proliferation of
the Antichrist, Donald Trump.
So here's my thing. People like Trump, how did he get here? He got millions of votes. What do you mean how he got here? There are people that you don't see on them polls on CNN and MSNBC who ain't going to tell you what they really think.
Right.
That's the truth. He's not the issue. He's the blackhead. The pus is American society.
Can we just call him a whitehead just because?
Cool.
Yeah.
The whitehead is Trump. The pus is society. You can't get mad at him for being the figurehead of what people really think.
Right.
And then on the other side, you got somebody that's just as corrupt. And so you got Gary Johnson, a libertarian candidate, getting 10% of the vote in a swing state like Virginia. This is scary times, I promise you. And if Hillary talks too much about being on the side of Black Lives Matter, she's going to lose more of the white vote, and it's going to be closer in November than any of y'all would expect. The church needs to stand up and say, this is wrong, this platform is wrong, we need to get involved on the political side. But they get too quiet because they're scared they don't want to lose tithe. They're afraid to lose their money. I'm an associate pastor. I say what I want. You know what I'm saying? But I respect my pastor's platform.
Right.
I don't bring up that in the church. But in moments like this, I get to share my real heart. Because if you're not going to talk about Philando and Alton, then I have a problem with that. And with respect, because killing cops is wrong too. You can't do that. But there are mitigating factors that have allowed this unrest to fester.
Yes.
And this is the outcrop of what's going on.
Right.
Do you feel like it's a lot of selective humanity going on? Because I have a problem when Barack Obama will hold press conferences for the cops that got killed, which is a tragedy, but not speak to the community, especially the black community, about what's going on when cops kill us all of the time.
Let me ask you this. And we put him in office in 08. And they were like, finally we got a black man in office. But nobody wanted to talk about the real narrative of what it means to be black in America. Here's a president whose mother was white.
Right.
Her name was Stanley Ann, okay? His father's from Africa. When we think black, we think your daddy from Detroit. His mama from North Carolina. Our people used to be in the fields. when we see black on him, we see melanin content. We don't see the black experience. He was raised by a white woman and white grandparents, so he's regressing to the mean. It does not affect him in the same way, and I'm not saying he's not a good man. But if you were at that cop memorial, why weren't you at Castile? Even if you didn't want to be at Alton's,
Right.
why wouldn't you be at Philando's? He was a law-abiding citizen. How come the NRA wasn't stepping up for Philando? Because he doesn't fit the narrative.
Word up.
Why wasn't the church, for that matter, at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando? Oh my gosh, they're gay. So what? This is not our job to judge. It's your job to be out in front of that club telling you what y'all need. We love you. We gonna serve you.
Selective humanity, man.
Selective humanity is a problem on both sides, but especially people of faith. You cannot choose who you gonna love, because the Bible says it was with loving kindness that he drew me when I was a sinner.
What got you in the church so heavy?
My mama. My mama crazy. I was
I mean,
like,
everybody, mama and grandmama push church and make you go to church, but you went all the way with it.
Well, I think because I really didn't have a choice. My grandmother was a church pianist. My mom was a church pianist. My father wasn't in the picture. My mother made sure in my neighborhood where kids were getting kidnapped, dudes in my neighborhood were getting killed, drugs started hitting hard right about 88, 89. I graduated high school in 91. I lost friends to AIDS. I lost my favorite cousin to AIDS. It was picking us off. So in my neighborhood, my mother literally fought to make sure I could get out so that I could become something significant. So her weapon was prayer. My mother would, if I brought the wrong girl home, she'd be like, "Hi, baby, nice to meet you." As soon as she turned around, and she'd be like, "I'm gonna pray her right out," because the truth is, and she was right, because I was making some unwise decisions.
You ever tell mama, "Mom, I'm just smashing"?
But here's the thing: I was a virgin when I got married. 37.
What? No way! Stop lying now. God watching. Don't
Strike me.
You was a virgin until you were 37 years old?
37, cuz.
And you just got married 6 years ago, right? You guys just
5.5
5
years ago.
Okay.
What's wrong? You didn't like how you look naked? You didn't want nobody to see?
Right,
What?
man. It was just, this whole thing was wrong. Honestly, at 13, my mother was like, "You're going to be a virgin when you get married." I was like, "Ma, I got buck teeth and alopecia. I got bald spots. I can't even get none if I want it."
Right.
It's one thing to live holy. It's another when you ain't got no options. I'm waiting on the Lord. I bet you are. Nigga, you can't get none. Hey, girl, what's your name is? Bro, look good to me. But at 16, I made a commitment. I said, "God, I'm going to wait." And that was something because my mother said, "You know what? I want you to be a new legacy." She said, "I waited until I was married. I want you to wait." And so that was my reality. I didn't have any other siblings. And even though my friends were like, "Dude, you gay. How you not smashing?" I'm like, "I promised Mom."
Did you masturbate?
Of course.
Okay. Did you
Absolutely.
Did you get holy head?
No. Now, here's the thing about that.
Head, what?
Can you?
I'm
first of all,
trying to say it nice. I just wanted to say I don't know.
At 12 years old, I discovered the art of self-ministry. That's what I call it. My mom caught me. I got into it.
That's awful.
I didn't know what I was doing. Keep in mind, my mama, we didn't have no VCRs. Back then it was VCRs. We ain't had no VCRs. We ain't had no magazines. My father wasn't around. I had all these hormones. I didn't know what I was feeling.
Right.
So I'm just chilling in the room. She walk in, she's like, "What are you doing?" I bind that spirit. I said, I feel something. I'm 11. I don't know what this is. And so at that moment, I realized I'm doing something wrong apparently, but I didn't know. And a note to all the parents out there, if you spiritual, it's good to have a spiritual foundation. But if you're a single mother raising sons, please be wise in how you deal with sexuality, because if you demonize it, you're going to cause us to suppress areas that we need to have conversation about.
Absolutely.
Which is like just what, sex in general, or
Sex in general and the parameters. Because to me, sex is sacred. There's a faith element to it for me. So for me, I made that decision that I was going to wait. Yeah, did I have close calls? Absolutely. Were there things I'm not proud of? Absolutely. But the reality is I waited and I told my wife, "This is the gift I'm giving to you." So I don't have anybody to compare my wife to.
that's interesting because I read somewhere that you weren't even ready to get married when you did get married.
Yeah, no, I was afraid. I was terrified.
Yeah, you posted that on your Instagram.
Yeah, I was afraid. And a lot of people might not understand that. But if you've never seen a good marriage, when your father left, when your mother who you revere,
Right.
her marriage didn't work. My grandmother who hears from God, her marriage didn't work. You know, these men walked away. How come you got all this Jesus, but you couldn't see he was not going to do right? You know, you can't never tell what people going to be. So for me, of course, I was terrified. I had no frame of reference. All my uncles left their families, you know, just brokenness. So for me, the fact that when I wake up in the morning, I'm in the same house as my 4-year-old son and my 3-year-old daughter, that's a miracle.
You didn't waste any time
Now,
after.
Hey, my kids are 11 months apart. I get down 2 minutes at a time. You understand me?
mad at you.
When you first got that first piece of poom poom, did you praise God?
I don't even remember how great the praise was. I was at the Lowe's Hotel in Atlanta. I'm sure the people next door, could you calm down, sir? Sir, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm smashing for the first time. I'm having sex for the first time with someone else in the room. Give me one moment. This is wonderful.
Did you pray over the vagina?
I did. I did not pray over it, Envy, like that. Like, Father, bless this wonderful piece of. No, I didn't do it like that.
Though.
I should have.
The reason I say that, I remember one time I was talking to, because I grew up Jehovah's Witness, so I was talking to one of the brothers in my church, and I was bringing up, Deuteronomy 14:8, where it says you shouldn't even touch the flesh of a dead pig, nonetheless eat it. And he was like, well, if you just pray over it, it's okay. I said, well, the Bible also says you can't have sex before marriage. So if I pray over the poom poom before I have sex with it, does that make it okay?
And what was his response?
He had no answer.
That means he had been smashing. That's what that was. But I feel like, for me, I want to raise my kids to understand the value of sex is between a husband and a wife. That's how I want to raise my kids. And it would be hypocritical to tell them that without letting them know the other part of my struggle and the part of my journey. And as a man, I think it's important to know that you don't have to have your manhood defined by how many women you sleep with. You know what I'm saying? Because growing up, that was the definition.
Absolutely.
And they made fun of me then, but now they ask me for prayer. So
I got a few more questions for the pastor. Somebody get the pastor a napkin. He's a real pastor, so his forehead sweating. That's what happens with real pastors.
I'm on the Breakfast Club. Got bacon for Jesus. Scrambled eggs. Headlong. Ooh, Lord, coffee and wheat toast.
Now, I feel like the world is in influx. Like, I look at what's going on in Turkey. I think about, like, the Brexit, and we're seeing what's going on in America. Are we living in the book of Revelations?
Awful.
Yeah, Angela, I watched this truck plow through people
Yeah.
for what this man felt was in the name of his God.
Yeah.
And you talk about Brexit, which is nothing more than nationalism, and people saying they want to feel like they felt years ago. This is what we see happening here.
In America, yeah.
In America. Are we living in Revelation? I believe absolutely we are. We're seeing the end times when Russia is invading the Crimean Peninsula, when Turkey is cutting off airspace, which allowed ISIS 2 critical days to resupply. When you're dealing with a culture of moral relativism and secular humanism, we're in trouble. This is not the United States of even 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. We're in a very violent, vicious moment in our society. I do believe that there are spiritual factors that are at play.
I agree.
And I do not force people to believe what I believe, but I'm telling you, if you believe in the concept of evil, you have to believe in the concept of an ultimate evil. Right. The stuff that we're seeing is wicked.
I agree.
When you run over people with a truck, that's wicked. When you kill people with a tank in Turkey, that's wicked. You understand? And then we've got toothless congressional leadership. That's why Vladimir Putin, he's punking the United States. World leaders know we're not going to bark like we used to. We got more of a diplomacy. We're more tender. Let's just talk about it. And they're like, they not about it.
But I thought that's the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be more diplomatic. We're supposed to be more talking.
Oh, you think we need to be more
forgiving.
aggressive?
I think we need to be more aggressive. I think we need to be more vigilant. I think that there are already sleeper cells all over this country. They don't want to destroy the country. They just want one big hit to break people's faith. They want fear. And so, there are people who just want to get one dirty bomb. They don't want to explode the city. A dirty bomb is just enough radiation to kill 10 blocks of a city. If they do that, they shut down infrastructure. Right. They don't want to destroy everything. They just want to mess up the water supply because now we can't drink water. You understand what I'm saying? And you can't catch everything everywhere. Somebody needs to be praying. That's how I feel. That's where I come in.
I'm with you. I told somebody that this weekend. I'm like, I'm not just looking at what's going on in America. I'm looking at the world. And I feel like, I don't want to call it divine, but it is like some type of something that's going on in the universe that seems like it almost has to happen. Like somebody asked me, what's the solution for everything that's going on? I say, I don't think it is a solution. I think we do have to go through this process.
I agree with you. I wouldn't necessarily have that conversation all the time because people wouldn't understand it. But there's something happening in the world, and it's progressing. And there are times when I preach and I'll say, You know, we got a lot of people who are saying it's about to get better. That's not me.
It's not.
I got a feeling it's going to get worse.
I said it on the radio this morning. It's
going to get worse. And if we're not prepared for it, you know, people think I'm like a fatalist. I'm not a fatalist. I'm wise. Make sure you got drinking water in your house, non-perishable items. Make sure you got some radios, some flashlights, and some batteries.
Know how to hunt.
Yeah, you better know how to hunt. My wife got
grow.
land down in Florida, and I'm like, we keeping it, and it's got a creek running through it. Go fishing. Let's make sure we know how to take care of ourselves just in case things happen. Right. I'm not saying that, you know, this is not craziness. These are real things. All it takes is one leader. If Iran gets nuclear capability, if China decides to break wide, because they mad over the South China Sea issue right now. We're making enemies where we never had them before.
And Donald Trump being in the White House is only going to create more.
I agree. But here's the other side. Is the other side that much better?
I don't think that Hillary would misuse the largest military in the world the way Trump would.
I think he would. That aggressiveness that people want, they'll get it with Trump.
And I also think that people internationally don't have a lot of respect for Donald Trump also, just because of things that he said about.
Didn't your boy endorse Trump? Didn't Joel Osteen endorse Trump?
No, he never did.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a thing. He was on some program and he said he met him and he was a nice guy. But of course, people ran with that and said,
"That's not an endorsement."
Yeah, that's not an endorsement. Because I've heard from people who have met him that he's genuinely engaging when you meet him one-on-one. But that stopped short of a political endorsement. He couldn't do it anyway because as a pastor of 501c3 nonprofit and a religious nonprofit, you can't do politics. So he never said that. But of course, people, again, they look for any reason to discredit you. So to look at him, he believes, you know, he's for Trump or whatever. And my thing is, both of them have their flaws and their issues. And it's been that way for years.
Who would you go with?
My guy's not in the race. I would have gone with Kasich. Because number one, you have to win Ohio in order to win the White House. No president has won.
That's interesting. You don't hear a black pastor go for a Republican.
No, I would go for Kasich because I err more on the. See, here's my thing. I feel like people don't understand the history of the Democratic Party. It was the Southern Democrats that were lynching. It was the Democrats that wanted Jim Crow. It was the Democrats that made sure grandfather clauses and all these other things that were in place to keep black people disenfranchised. The historical Democratic Party was not our friend. It was the Republican Party that was fighting to abolish slavery. Now, I'm not saying they were any better, but my point is this. You know, all the way up to the Voting Rights Act in the 60s, Lyndon Johnson, the Civil Rights Act, after Kennedy was assassinated, all those things ended up actually creating sanctuary cities where black people stayed disenfranchised and underprivileged. Now you got housing projects all over the country where we're kind of hoarded. And you ask most African Americans in the last 8 years, are they materially better now than they were when then President Obama first took office? And I think the answer would be negligible. How much more money are you making now? What does your life look like on a day-to-day basis? But the Democratic Party has no incentive to really hear from us, number one, because we're not the majority minority anymore. Hispanics are. And so we lost our seat at the table. And now the Republicans don't have a clue how to engage anybody other than rich white men, at least from its base. And so the African Americans are like, well, we'll just roll with Clinton. But Hillary ain't Bill. That's all I'm going to say. I don't believe that it's the same as it was when he was in office. I believe that we're at a different time, and I don't think that they should take the black vote for granted. You need to talk to us because the last president, our current president, has not engaged the African-American community the way we anticipated that he would.
That's real.
And she should not think that we're going to come out in droves just because we genuinely don't like Trump. That's not the reason to vote for her.
Did you like Bernie Sanders?
I did. But some of his policies, I don't know how we're going to pay for them.
Right.
We're already $19 trillion in debt. It sounds
great.
Sounds great to not have college debt. Where are we going to pay for it when Social Security is going to be depleted in the next 20 years? So I hope y'all all are blessed and get rich and save your money because if you're waiting on a check from the government, it may not be there. And so we got real issues. I think he's got a great platform. And think about this. The fact that Bernie Sanders was the most progressive candidate and he's in his 70s lets you know we in trouble. You see what I'm saying? Millennials connected to Sanders because he's talking their language. Hillary has the least favorable rating. They don't trust her in her own party. 80% don't trust her. And that's Democrats. So there's a real trust issue there. So, I don't know. I just feel like black people are not a monolith. You need to engage us, have dialogue, and don't expect for us to we ain't on the plantation anymore. Talk to me and tell me how you're going to affect change. How are you going to help me financially? How are you going to help me from a job standpoint?
Well, the pastor got to go, guys.
Yeah, he has to go.
Do I have to leave?
Pastor John Gray.
Yeah.
You counsel the Currys too, right?
Yeah, man.
Did you pray? Did Aisha ask for prayer after she said the NBA was rigged?
Nah, man, I was just like, Steph, get your girl. get your girl, man.
Well, there you have it.
You want to end us on a prayer?
The
Come
preacher,
on now.
the preacher's
Oh,
on Fox.
damn, yeah.
Let's not forget. We gotta let everybody know.
I mean, you gotta go, you gotta run.
I don't got time for God. End us with a
That's
prayer.
right.
All right.
Lord, I want to thank you for this venue and this space for Angela and Envy and See to God. I ask that you will continue to give them a voice to speak for a generation and to a generation. And thank you for the way that they utilize their influence to keep current events in the face of people and not compromising their voices. Protect them, bless them, and give them favor. This is my prayer in Jesus' name, and for all the listeners as well. And heal this nation, God, because we're in trouble. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Pastor John Gray. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
The Breakfast Club. Every weekday morning. Tune in.